Perfect. And we'll just welcome everyone in to this space today. Karen, yay, good to see you. Well, your picture so far. Hey, Karen, good to see you. Jessica, Anna,
Hey,
Kat,
welcome.
how's everyone doing today? Amazing. Yeah, of course, it's so beautiful out today in Ontario for those of you that are joining us from this area. Yeah, definitely curious. Maybe just if we could really quickly in the chat before we jump in, we're just waiting for a few more people to join us. But could you share with us in the chat, where are you joining us from? Because we're going to talk, we're so excited about the weather we're getting here in the Toronto, Canada area. Yeah, New York City. So, yes, Anna, you have very similar weather to what we're having here. Amazing. Caledonia, of course. Central Pennsylvania. Welcome, welcome. Denver, awesome. Sounds like everybody's having some beautiful weather. I think we're due. I think we're due. Amazing, amazing. We're super excited to have you all here today joining us. I know that this is a topic that's definitely very close to my heart and personal experience, so as well as Laura. And it's actually how I met our guest for today. But before we get there, just there's a few of you that are here or will be watching the recording that are new in this space. And so first off, we just want to welcome you here. So glad that you can join us. I'm Kelly Oswin, and my partner Laura Slynn at Avalon is here with us today. And a little bit about us. Laura and I met actually in 2012 when we were both initially doing training to move into the coaching space. And we were instant cosmic BFFs. And we've been traveling this trajectory together. Laura founded Avalon Empowerment in 2015 with her then business partner. And I've always been on the periphery of that experience. And I officially joined in partnership with Avalon in 2019. And together we have been training and certifying coaches in transformational work. Our mission is really all about normalizing miracles in the world together. We know it's a big mission. We can't do it alone. We're so happy that we have so many people along the way joining us. We have our team members here today. Nicole Weston, who is an Avalon coach. She supports our graduates as well as our coaches with coaching supervision support while they're doing the work. And of course, LA, who is also here with us, who really just takes care of all of us with all of the behind the scenes pieces that Nicole, Laura, and I are doing. And we're super excited to have LA here as well and to have you all joining us. But I do want to take the most time to talk about our guest today and why we're super excited about this. I know you've all read a little bit about Adrian, Dr. Adrian, when you signed up. For those of you who are meeting Dr. Adrian for the first time, Dr. Adrian is a naturopathic doctor and transformational coach. And I mentioned at the beginning that I met Dr. Adrian through, actually, it was a conference that we were both at, and we got talking about perimenopause and some of those challenges, as well as the coaching work that we were doing at Avalon. And I think we both could agree that we needed to talk more, and learning more about Adrian's work and Adrian learning more about that integration of transformational coaching as well. Dr. Adrian has helped hundreds of women navigate the biological and emotional roller coaster of menopause while also reimagining what their work and life balance could be, if there is such a thing as balance. There came a time when everything she had built started to feel misaligned. Menopause, I know many of us can relate, menopause brought on brain fog, insomnia, exhaustion, joint pain, and her business model didn't support the woman she was becoming. It felt like everything was unraveling. But instead of giving up, she turned inward, got honest about what needed to change, and created a new way forward. Through that process, Dr. Adrian designed what is now the Menopause Proof Your Business method, a system that helps women stop pretending they're fine and instead build aligned, powerful, energy honoring businesses that support their next chapter. She didn't just survive menopause, she used it as a portal to purpose. And we are super excited to invite you here today, Dr. Adrian, to share with us and all the work that you're doing and all that we need to hear in terms of the stage that we are in as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this talk today. This is an area of passion and of leadership for me, and I really just think this discussion needs to be out there much more than it currently is. So if you'll bear with me a moment, I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. And can you see the slides? Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we can.
great. All right, awesome. And give me one more second to make sure I can see the speaker notes and everything. Okay, sorry, and I want the chat there. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, so let's dive in. But first off, I just want to get a sense of who's here today. So I'm just curious, how many of you are feeling like hormones have changed the game? And throw a Y or an N into the chat. And maybe that game's come along with no rule book to tell you how on earth to play it. All right, I am seeing a lot of yeses. All right, maybe. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people, yes, as we'll be talking about in a moment, like being in the perimenopause or menopause transition doesn't necessarily mean just hot flashes or some of those typical symptoms we think of. So maybe not. We'll see if you see yourself in this, Abby. All right. Awesome. Okay, so I think I'm speaking to the right crowd here. So I'm really super excited to share some of these insights and tips that have helped me, as well as my clients I've worked with, survive that kind of clash that seems to be happening between hormones and work life, as well as I said before, a different way maybe of thinking about this transition, and instead thinking about it in a much broader sense than just like hormone symptoms. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to dive right in. And sorry, I'm just layering all my windows here. All right, give me one sec. All right. So I wanted to start with admitting something that even as a health professional, someone who's trained in all of this stuff, I honestly had no idea what was happening to me when I hit my mid 40s. I didn't know that the mood swings and the weird energy drops and the anxiety spikes and the shoulder pain, like little did I know there's something called menopause shoulder. All of that, sleep issues were actually all connected. And so I also didn't know at that time that there are close to 100 different symptoms that can show up during this transition. Now, don't get scared of that list. It's a huge list and nobody's going to get all 100, but it's just to highlight the point that we can get a whole range of symptoms showing up in very different areas of our body than we actually think of when we think of hormones. So I really didn't know that a lot of these symptoms were related to the perimenopause transition, as well as I didn't realize how much they were going to affect my work. So I wanted to ground this in terms of saying that if you have been feeling off and if you've noticed that you don't have the same stamina or the sharpness you used to, and if you've been quietly wondering, why can I not hold it together like I used to? I want you to hear me when I say you are not falling apart, even though it may feel like you are. Definitely, it may feel like you are. But what is happening is that you're going through a transition, and a transition that's physical, but it is also emotional, mental, and energetic. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, transitions in life, they can be chaotic, whether we're talking about puberty or menopause or motherhood. They usually come with chaos until we get to the other side. And this transition through perimenopause and menopause, it definitely changes how we work or how we show up for work, which means it changes how our business needs to work as well too. Sorry, my slides don't want to progress. There we go. We've been handed this story, and it's a pretty limited one, about what menopause looks like. We've been told, of course, to expect hot flashes, maybe some night sweats, maybe like our cycles start changing. But what we haven't been told is how much this transition can impact our brain, our nervous system, our mood, our focus, and our ability to create and to hold space. And what we've definitely not been told is that it can also be a turning point depending on how we approach it in terms of our health, but also in terms of our business. So this is a turning point where we can head in a direction that's very positive or one that is more negative. Because here's the thing, this transition, again, is not a sign that you're falling apart. It's just a sign that the old way of operating, the way you've been holding it all together up until now, probably isn't working anymore. And I've shared this statistic before with some people. There was a study done recently that 1 in 10 women are leaving the workforce and they're citing menopause or hormones in perimenopause as the reason. And that is shocking. And let's be real, if you're an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself, the exit doesn't always look like quitting. It can look like burnout. It can look like losing your momentum. And it looks like maybe slowly disappearing from your own life's work. And that's a problem because we're losing our wisdom keepers, the women with decades of lived experience, intuitive knowledge, leadership, and they're slipping through the cracks of a model that was never built to support us. So today, what I want to talk about is something a little bit different because I don't believe this is just a health conversation when we're talking about perimenopause and menopause. It's a leadership conversation and it's a legacy conversation. And it starts with a simple but powerful truth that the business that got you here or the way you've been working in your job may not be the one that can carry you forward. But I want to assure you that there is actually a new way and a business model that honors your energy with where it's at now and supports your nervous system. And it's actually designed for this next season of life instead of working against it. So before I dive in any further, again, I just want to quickly just again say my name is Dr. Adrian, and I'm a naturopathic doctor of 20 years and a coach trained through our absolutely amazing Avalon. And again, I specialize in helping women navigate the menopause transition and see how they can redesign their business to support their biology, their purpose, and their impact. So today, what I'm going to talk about is the framework I use to help women regain their energy and stop pushing through and start building something that actually supports them. So let's talk about why what used to work just doesn't work anymore. So you might be showing up to your business or your work in the same way you always have, same work ethic, same intention, same dedication, but now you may have noticed it feels a little bit harder. Things that used to feel easy suddenly take more time, more energy, more recovery. And even when you do all of the right things, like you try to get to bed early and you plan ahead and you take your supplements and you drink your green juice, you still feel like you're running on a deficit. Does anybody relate to that? Throw a Y in the chat if you relate to that. I'm hearing some Ys. Yes, a lot of Ys. Okay. 1,000%, yes. So for some women, this can show up as resistance. Like I've had this so many times before when a new client books, and before it used to be, yay, new client. And instead of feeling excited, you feel like actually dread. Or those days when you hit it hard and you feel super proud of yourself for getting so much done. It was such an amazing, productive day. And then the next day, you can barely get out of bed. Or when somebody asks at the end of the day, what's for dinner? Oh my gosh, how much do you hate that question? What's for dinner? I am known to tell my husband, I have zero bandwidth left. I cannot make this decision. You tell me what's for dinner. So that is, oops, sorry, that is the potentially the brain fog setting in, which can come with its whole host of symptoms like forgetting names and missing appointments and walking into a room that you have no idea why you're there. Or you're sitting at your laptop trying to write that email and your brain just basically shorts or it just won't come online. And here's something I've noticed talking to women. This is where a lot of women actually start blaming themselves. They think maybe they've lost their edge, like, why can't I do what I used to? And they start to lose their confidence and start to feel like maybe I can't just do this anymore. And so, what do we do when we feel like that? We double down. If you're like me, you sign up for yet another course, or we buy a new planner. I have an entire bookshelf of agendas and planners. And can I just give you this like little golden nugget? You cannot plan your way out of perimenopause. I've tried it. So we search for that next productivity hack or focus formula or the 5 a.m. morning routine we're clearly not doing right. And because that's what we've been taught, that if we're struggling, the answer has to be more efficiency, to manage our time better, to be more disciplined, to implement a new strategy. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening is that we have to recognize we've changed. Again, it's a physical, mental, emotional transition. And the way you are working hasn't changed. And that means there's a misalignment between the two, and that's what's creating the friction. So let's name the real issue here. Most of us have either built a business or we're in a workplace which is based on this broken masculine model of success and productivity, a model that values constant output over cycles, speed over sustainability, and discipline instead of intuition. And it rewards the person who shows up no matter what, even if her body is screaming for rest. Again, it praises those back-to-back Zoom meetings or launch calendars or projects, or again, that like 4 to 5 a.m. wake up. And please don't get me started on hearing yet another guy telling me the secret to success is getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. and meditating and exercise. I think the last thing most women need is less sleep. And you know what these guys that I've listened to usually have? They have somebody who is supporting them and taking care of the kids and getting them to the sports and taking care of the house and the aging parents and everything like that. So I also want to recognize, like, for many of us, we've actually made that model work up until now because we're smart, we're capable, and we're determined. But there comes a point, especially in the perimenopause and menopause transition, where your biology simply refuses to play by those rules because those rules were never designed for us in the first place. So this model, that broken masculine model of success, is built around linear productivity, constant output, the idea that success means always growing, always scaling, always doing more. And it's a model rooted in control, and that leaves no room for alignment or a little bit of space or for seasons, for everything this phase of life asks of us. And actually, it doesn't even ask, it demands, because oftentimes physically, we can't just get our bodies to behave the way we used to. So if you've been feeling like your business doesn't fit anymore, and like maybe the pace and the pressure and the expectations are feeling super off, let me just say you're not imagining it. What is happening is you're outgrowing a model that was never meant to hold the fullness of who you are. And that is not a failure on your part. That is evolution. So, let's talk a little bit about what's really happening inside your body during this transition. Because if no one's explained this to you properly, you are definitely not alone, although I'm hearing more and more, definitely on social. Thankfully, we're finally at a place where at least some of the physical stuff is being talked about. But again, I was a trained health professional, and I honestly didn't fully realize how many systems in my body were being impacted when I entered perimenopause. Most women expect, again, those hot flashes, maybe the irregular cycles, but what's actually happening is a full body recalibration, and not because your body is broken or deficient. Let's be clear, one of the things I really hate out there is the framing of menopause as a hormone deficiency. It's not a hormone deficiency. This is your body trying to adapt to a major biological shift. Again, we wouldn't look back at pre-pubescent girls, so girls who haven't gone through puberty, we would never say they're hormone deficient, that they're somehow lacking. So again, we're not hormone deficient. We're going through a transition where our body's adapting to the hormone levels being lower again. And the symptoms we're experiencing are things like brain fog and sleep disruption and energy crashes. They often come from our body's struggle to adjust and not from the absence of hormones themselves. In fact, we have a lot of like really actually good research. Again, there needs to be a lot more, but there is an area of research in terms of lifestyle changes, things like diet and movement and different techniques for stress reduction. And these studies are showing they can dramatically reduce menopause symptoms. And why is that? If we look at that, obviously eating a certain way or exercising a certain way or reducing stress, it's not replacing your hormones. It can't be. So why is it reducing our symptoms? It's because they help our body be in a position where it can more effectively adapt to the new normal. So before this transitions, our hormones were acting as a buffer. So estrogen especially is an incredibly protective hormone, and it helps us regulate blood sugar and inflammation and mood, and it even protects the brain in certain ways as well too. And I like to use this analogy with my patients of having a pot that's boiling and we have a lid on it. And the lid is the hormones. And what's happening in perimenopause and menopause is that lid is coming off. And depending on what's going on in that pot, it may all bubble over. So we definitely can start to see the cracks in the system. When those hormones or that lid of the pot comes off, we begin to see what is out of balance. So again, men don't have that protective mechanism, which is why they have more incidences of things like heart disease, blood pressure issues, blood sugar issues earlier. We as women are lucky that we have those hormones that are actually protecting us, and men don't have them. But then the playing field becomes even. So what happens as those hormones decline is that choices that used to be no big deal, like skipping a meal or sleeping 5 hours or pushing through a lunch while surviving on adrenaline and coffee, now they have consequences. Our bodies start sending louder signals. And again, it's not our bodies being difficult. It's our bodies being honest. It's saying, hey, I'm going through a really stressful transition here, and I need you to support me in this and not undermine me in this. So estrogen and progesterone, they interact with all of these different systems. And that's why we have things like symptoms in the brain or with our stress response or with our metabolism, with our sleep and with our nervous system. And our bodies need some time and space and nourishment so they can adjust to the decrease in hormones. Again, as I always tell my patients, even if everything else in your world is absolutely perfect and relaxed, your body is still under stress because it's adjusting. Like, how long do teenagers sleep, right? That's another huge hormone transition. And they sleep 12 hours. And we definitely don't have the luxury to do that. And why? Because their system is stressed. It's adjusting to a change in hormones and a change in way it's functioning. And this isn't just happening in the background, of course, this transition, it's also showing up for many women with work. The same tasks tend to take longer. I'm sure many of you have noticed that your bandwidth feels narrower and you're holding probably less in your head and more in your body. And that's not something a productivity hack is ever going to fix. Trust me, I've tried it. And the deeper issue here is that most of us are still running our business on a model that was never designed for our bodies, let alone bodies that are now in a transition. So it's a model that again assumes constant output, linear energy, and zero fluctuation in capacity. And it assumes you'll be the same every day, every month, every quarter. And we know that's not true even prior to perimenopause because of cycles. So when your biology starts shifting, the gap between expectation and reality tends to get wider and wider. And we tend to push ourselves harder. I see so many women blaming themselves, and also our symptoms tend to worsen. So again, this is a mental, emotional, and energetic transition as well as a physical transition. Just again, adolescence wasn't just puberty and motherhood wasn't just having a baby. This phase of life is also a becoming. It's an identity shift. It's a clarity season. It's a shedding of who you were taught to be in order to become who you truly are. And I want to honor this process and say I hear this from a lot of my patients, and I've experienced it myself. There's often a grief in this process, a grief for who you used to be, a grief for the energy you used to have, for the way you used to be able to once like really hit it or push through with no visible cost. And there's also like a deep insight that can come with this moment. Many women start to notice that, you know what, I don't want to do it this way anymore, or I'm done performing, or I'm done pleasing everyone else and self-sacrificing all the time. And that noticing, again, I will say, is not a crisis. That's wisdom coming online. So if you've been feeling like your capacity has changed, it has. And if you're feeling like the old tools aren't working, well, they're probably not. And you haven't failed. You are instead evolving. You're running a business. You're running a business built on a model that doesn't recognize your biology, your capacity, or the sacredness of this transition. And the cost of ignoring that mismatch is that it ends up showing up everywhere. But this doesn't have to end in burnout like it does for many women. And again, that goes to that stat of 1 in 10 women walking away. It can, in fact, be the beginning of something entirely new because, again, your body isn't the barrier, it's the blueprint. What happens when we ignore all this, when we keep trying to go like nothing's changed, when we double down on business as usual, or when we push ourselves to keep performing at pre-menopause levels, the cost shows up. And not all at once, but slowly and in layers, with things like fatigue and increased inflammation, that narrow bandwidth, anxiety, creativity, confidence, relationships. Definitely, I hear that all the time. A lot of regret from women I've worked with about like how they have no bandwidth at the end of the day and snapping at kids or snapping at spouses. Or another woman I spoke to yesterday was just talking about how like she just isn't saying yes anymore to going out with friends. So the things you once loved start to feel like a weight. And it's not because you don't care, but it's because your body and business are out of sync. And here's the most heartbreaking part, at least to me, is that many brilliant women start shrinking their goals and silencing their voices or walking away from their vision altogether. And it's not because they've lost their fire, but it's because they've never got the support to rebuild the container that could hold it. So, what is that container? It's a grounded body, it's a regulated nervous system, and it's a business that's in alignment with who you are. So, we're not supposed to power through this transition, we're supposed to respond to it. So, again, I'll say this isn't a breakdown. If we approach it in a different way, it can be an invitation to rebuild on new terms. So, to ask, what does success look like when it honors my biology, my rhythms, and my truth? You're allowed to change. You're allowed to lead differently, and your business, it can rise to meet that. So I'm going to introduce you to my menopause proofing framework. And this is what I use when I work with women in my program. And it's based on 3 pillars. Reset, that first pillar of focusing on the body, because obviously if our body is in chaos and it's freaking out, no matter what we try to do in business is going to feel again like that woman pushing that heavy boulder up a hill. Then the next pillar is rebalance, where we work on the nervous system. So a nervous system that feels safe, that feels settled, is a place where we can see what it is that we need to move in our business or shift potentially in our business to bring it into that last pillar, realignment, where we work on the business itself, looking at what needs to shift to bring it more into alignment with this season of life. So let's go into each of these pillars and I'll give you like a few tips for each of these as we go along. So the first pillar again is reset. So that's where we're looking to support the body. So again, when we create the conditions for our bodies to feel safe by addressing inflammation and blood sugar and circadian rhythm, which is our sleep cycle, the gut, the liver, all of these systems that are under so much stress during the transition, we can actually help our bodies adapt to this hormonal change as opposed to freaking out. Because when our biology is supported, everything else becomes more possible. And those symptoms, again, that we're experiencing, the sleep issues or anxiety spikes or the energy crashes, they aren't random. They are signals. They're the body's way of saying, I can't keep operating like this. So the 3 main areas that I think really move the needle in terms of feeling better in our body are working with the circadian rhythm, which is our sleep-wake cycle, working with our liver and gut health, as well as I put down hormone balancing, but it's supposed to be hormone balancing diet. So food that supports our body's inflammation, blood sugar, and our system. So let's talk about the first one, the sleep or the circadian rhythm. So if you're not sleeping well, of course, nothing works well in your body. Your energy is going to be low, your mood's going to be in the tanker or on a roller coaster ride. And sleep is, of course, when we repair. So during perimenopause and menopause, it's really important that we're getting good, nourishing sleep because that's when our body repairs. So let's talk about why this is often problematic and what we can do about it. So I love this chart. I show it to all my patients. And you can see on this clock that very specific things happen at specific times of day. So this is what our circadian rhythm is. And if it's out of sync, then we're going to get all sorts of weird symptoms. Plus, our body is going to feel incredibly stressed. So, signs that your circadian rhythm may be out of sync is that you get hungry at weird times, or you can't fall asleep, or you wake up at 3 a.m. and you can't get back to sleep, feeling foggy, disconnected, or depleted. Any of that sounding familiar? I bet you it is for a lot of us. Sorry, didn't get those ones in. Okay, here's the flip side of that chart that I'm always showing my patients, and I love this one. So this is actually from a research paper, and it explains a little bit about the circadian rhythm and what's happening here. So if you look at the, I guess, left-hand side, you'll see a picture of the sun there. So what happens is that the natural light from the sun, blue light specifically, goes into our eyes, and through the eyes, it travels to that little clock. Can you guys see the clock in that picture? That clock is in our brain. And it tells our brain, oh, it's daytime. I need to switch to the daytime hormones. And then at nighttime, those light levels come down, the eyes pick that up, and that resets our clock to the nighttime. But what I think is so powerful about this picture is that if you look closely, if you're not on your phone, if you look closely at that clock, you'll see all these blue arrows coming off of it. So that clock is actually triggering these blue arrows, which are either hormones or nervous system signals, which go to every single organ in the body. So you can see your adrenal glands, your stress glands there, your thyroid gland, your heart, your pancreas, the liver, the stomach. And it's may or may not be difficult to see, but there's little tiny clocks with each of those. So at specific times a day, those signals are stronger or more active to those different organs. So again, if our body doesn't understand where it is in the day, you can start to be able to understand why there's so much metabolic chaos. So if our body doesn't understand, like it's daytime now and I'm supposed to start those daytime hormones, then again, all of this gets incredibly chaotic and we get a lot of symptoms. So how do we reset that circadian rhythm? So the good news is it is very responsive, and there's a couple of things that you can do. And I'm just going to give you a few of those. I go into deeper detail in those when I'm working with my patients or in my programs. But some of the biggest ways to move that needle is that, again, I showed you the picture. It was light coming in that sets your clock. So given the weather is getting nicer at this time of year, getting outside without sunglasses, even probably without glasses, because a lot of them have blue light blocking effects, getting that light into the eyes first thing in the morning, as well as shutting down the phone at night, ideally an hour before bed, allows our body to know when is daytime and when is nighttime. Another thing is definitely, and we know all of this, watching caffeine and alcohol, but what a lot of people don't know is things like caffeine for some people can take up to 12 hours for our liver to detoxify half of it. Half of it. Isn't that crazy? So I started noticing, although I was falling asleep, I was still waking up, and I started to realize that my afternoon caffeinated beverage was still in my system and affecting whether I was getting into a deep restorative sleep. And alcohol definitely can do the same. And then the last thing is to create a wind down routine. Again, as I always tell my clients, we're just big babies. So most people, if you've ever seen a mother or if you have been a mother, with our babies, we have a very specific routine. And we follow that routine in order to teach our babies, okay, it's bath time, and then we read a book, and then we sing this song. That's teaching our baby's brain, okay, these things happen. That means I'm supposed to bring melatonin, our sleep hormone, online and fall into a deep sleep. So we're just big babies. We need a wind down routine. All right. So the second area of lever for the health is the gut and detoxification. When there's chaos in our gut, there's a lot of symptoms from heavy periods to irritability, bloating, increased inflammation. Maybe that's sounding slightly familiar to some of us. And definitely a happy gut equals a happy person. Did you know 90%, 90 of serotonin is made in our gut? That's our happy hormone, our feel-good hormone. And 70% of our sleep hormone is made in our gut. And then the liver also, if our liver is sluggish, it leads to huge hormonal imbalances. And I especially see this in perimenopause, definitely in menopause too, but definitely in perimenopause with heavy periods as well as fatigue. Even like that sluggish feeling and burnout can relate to liver detoxification. So there's three simple ways I'm going to go over to support your liver. One, veggies. I'm always telling people, eat your veggies. So minimum 2 cups a day with at least one being cruciferous vegetables. That's broccoli, cabbage, kale. All of those support detoxification in the liver and hormone balance. Little things like a bit of lemon and water in the morning or something bitter absolutely helps stimulate the liver and gently cleanse, as well as lots of fiber as well as hydration. Things like ground flaxseed, chia seeds, lentils, cooked vegetables really support detoxification, support the good bacteria in the gut. All right. So the last piece of the reset pillar looking at rebalancing the body is the hormone balancing diet. So most of the research that is being done in terms of diet actually has been done on what's called the Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet's wonderful and it's been clinically shown to decrease hormone symptoms. Why? Because it decreases inflammation. It stabilizes blood sugar and it provides so many nutrients as well as the fiber that supports our gut health, supports our liver health. So all of the systems in the body that are under stress during menopause are nourished through a Mediterranean diet approach. So that means like a lot of omega-3s through either fish or through olive oil, through nuts and seeds. Protein comes from like the lean meats, again, the bean family, which is also very good. It doesn't cut out starches, but it definitely focuses on the whole grains. So things like oats or brown rice, quinoa, things like that, and lots of vegetables. All right. Yes. So pillar number 2 in the menopause proofing your business framework is rebalance. So this is where we deal with the nervous system. So we've dealt with the body's feeling better, symptoms have diminished, we're feeling great. Now it's time to settle that nervous system. So we can't build a business on burnout. And that's what most of us have been trained to do, to push through the exhaustion, to override our bodies. And we stay busy so we don't feel like really how off we are. But again, we need to correct or support the nervous system throughout this transition. Because again, what I'm noticing is the women that I work with, they're just not tired of their business. They're tired to their bones. They've pushed, they've performed, they've held everything together in their work life, in their family life, and often at the expense of their own health. So this is a phase where women start to feel their adrenal glands hit the wall. The adrenal glands are our stress glands. So maybe you've noticed you've been feeling wired but tired, or you can't sleep deeply, or your energy crashes mid-afternoon, or launches or big projects start to feel like they're going to break you. So that's a sure sign your nervous system is either stuck in fight or flight or freeze. And I heard more recently there's another F, it's fawn. So recognition that like the people pleasing almost becomes on overdrive. So this is where our system feels like everything's a threat. Your to-do list is a minefield. Simple decisions feel overwhelming. And you can't strategize when your system is just trying to survive. So here's the kicker. Chronic stress doesn't just feel bad, it causes hormone chaos. So cortisol, our stress hormone, dysregulates or disrupts estrogen and progesterone. It disrupts our blood sugar, our sleep, our digestion, everything. And when we're dysregulated, we enter reactive leadership. And it's why we lash out or we shut down or we procrastinate or we over deliver. All of those are signs. If you hear any of those and recognize, that's a sign of a nervous system waving a white flag. And so usually what I'm doing in this pillar is we're working with different tools to help regulate the nervous system. So it might be things like deep breathing techniques or somatic reset or vagus nerve activation. The vagus nerve is the main nerve in our relaxation side of our nervous system. One of the most profound is the last one of having daily rituals. So again, it doesn't have to be waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. and spending an hour, but it might be sitting down to work and taking that tiniest of pause. Like I find just 5 minutes before I enter my workday and leave my workday to just ground myself using either like deep breathing or maybe I'm journaling or something to shift that nervous system to tell my body that I am safe while I'm working makes a profound difference. And they're the foundation of a sustainable business, especially in this season. So, another piece of settling the nervous system in this pillar is creating space so that we can recover our energy. So, if your calendar it is looking a little like this, it's probably a mirror of your cortisol, your stress hormone. When everything is jammed, back-to-back calls, non-stop tasks, zero white space, your nervous system is never going to get a chance to shift into a slower mode. And you start and when it's like that, when you're frazzled and you're just like on that nervous system fight or flight, you're going to start saying yes to everything. You're going to have mental tabs that are open all the time and you never get to close them. And you're going to find yourself, you're busy, but you're not moving the needle. So this isn't, again, a time management issue. It's a capacity issue. So another step in terms of settling the nervous system is doing an energy audit. So, what are the things that are draining energy? Looking at that 80-20 rule, if you've heard it, where are you spending 80% of your time in your business? And is it producing results or is it not producing results? Looking at your own personal energy cycles. Some of my patients will say that their energy is best in the daytime, but by the time they hit 2 o'clock, they're brain dead. So, we need to honor these energy cycles, and they may be monthly cycles as well too if we're still getting our cycle. And where there is space, there's no perfection in any of this, but where there is space to maybe front load where our energy is higher and put the like smaller tasks or meaningless tasks when we don't have energy, that is an important tool as well too. And also learning how to unplug. So again, that end of the day, returning to yourself, whether that's stepping away from your inbox and going outside or standing on grass to ground or doing one of the somatic techniques like shaking your body just to shake that energy off, whatever helps you release, if it's not wine or caffeine, because when your nervous system has space, your strategy gets better, your clarity returns, and your intuition turns back on. And then the other thing that I always look at when it comes to the nervous system are boundaries. So creating firm boundaries is one of the best ways to create space and rebalance the nervous system. So a lot of us have leaky boundaries with our clients, with time, with our family, even with social media and with ourselves. And they drain the very system we're trying to heal. So I use this analogy a lot now that it's like our body has a certain amount of energy, like a bank account has a certain balance. And what we're doing throughout the day is like we're tapping that debit card or credit card. And if we tap it too often, we go into overdraft. We need to budget our energy And and so that's again recognizing how much energy certain things take and trying to reserve our energy for the things that take more energy. So also the adrenal rituals again can be very helpful. Things that support our adrenal glands, like sunlight in the morning, rhythms with our day and nourishing meals, all important, and mindful energy practices, also very helpful. And these are the things that let you protect your energy and they give your body the safety it needs to rebuild. And to me, this is what sacred leadership looks like. So, rebalance isn't just a wellness add on. So, working with our nervous system, it's the foundation for everything else we've been trying to build. You can't realign your business until your nervous system feels safe enough to show up. And you can't access that vision of what it is you want to step into until if your system is stuck on survival. So, this is how we build a woman led business differently, from alignment and from nourishment of our nervous system. So that gets us to our last pillar. So now, assuming the body is feeling supported, symptoms are less, energy is better, we're feeling more grounded because we've gone through the nervous system pillar. Now we can step into that final pillar of realign, where we step into that next chapter. So when your bodies are supported and our nervous system is regulated, we finally have the space to ask what actually fits now. We can reconnect to our future selves and clarify our values and look at what's draining our energy and what's no longer aligned. So what you are building now is what needs to be focused on, and asking the question, does it actually fit who you're becoming? So your nervous system follows your identity, and that's a truth I return to over and over again in my work, because the woman you're becoming, your future self, isn't just a mindset, she's an energetic blueprint. And if you don't have a clear image of who she is, and if you can't feel her, hear her, or trust her, you'll just keep planning on reactivity. So we need to get clear on who she is. And that's why we want to explore her values, and we anchor into her rhythms and needs. And we look at a business that supports her, not the other way around. And that means we need some space. I'd like to talk about, just really quickly, because I know we're getting close to our time here, and I wanted to definitely answer some questions, but I want to definitely cover this in terms of misalignment, creating dysregulation, and that, again, your business may be beautiful, it may even be wonderfully profitable, but if it's misaligned, it's going to feel heavy. So that may show up in different ways. It, like offers that no longer excite you, or you feel obligated to run, or delivery models that don't leave space for you, or a client load that you just can't carry. So let me say this clearly. That doesn't mean your business is broken. It just means it's ready to evolve. So I've seen too many women walking away from their business or burning it down because of these things. And again, realignment isn't just about blowing up your business. It's about honoring what fits and being brave enough to shift what doesn't. And that means releasing old protection patterns, for sure. And that we learn, that I've been taught through wonderful Avalon, about those unconscious patterns that we may have. Carrying them through into our next phase of life does not support us. So we want to release a lot of these unconscious patterns, like overgiving and the proving and the perfectionism, and maybe the freeze response disguised as, I just need more clarity. And these patterns that may have actually served us in the past and they got you here, they're not going to be what keeps you takes you to where you are going. So those old systems of urgency and scarcity and self-sacrifice and pushing and proving, they just don't work as you're entering that perimenopause, menopause transition. So one of the things that can help it is wonderful coaching like Avalon coaches do, quantum time release, evolved NLP, and that belief rewiring. And it's also looking at our business and looking at becoming an architect for a more regenerative business. I don't know if you've heard this before about a regenerative business model, but a regenerative business is based more on nature and it honors our energy, it honors our seasons, and it honors our intuition. So it has cycles in it. It's not in constant growth and it focuses on balance and impact and creating systems that nourish all of those involved. Again, I don't want to get Pollyanna. We're never going to have perfect balance. Absolutely not. But when we at least take a look at some of these things and build them in, we create a lot more space in our business. So a regenerative business model, again, is rooted in energy. It's in alignment with nature's wisdom and designed to restore, not deplete. And it's scaled through connection, not hustle. And it's a container for transformation for ourselves as business owners, as well as our clients. So the couple of little steps is regenerating you first. I've already focused on that because that's that nervous system work, that's that physical work. Then is the step of redesigning according to cycles, not constant output. Again, most traditional business models mimic like that linear growth, always on, growth at all costs. So a regenerative business mimics nature more. It includes cycles of creation. It builds in cycles of rest, composting, and blooming again. And what it looks like is maybe launches that are more aligned with your seasonal energy, again, or hormone phases. For me, like fall is a great energy time, so I tend to put my launches in fall. It has built-in down seasons for both you and your clients, and it offers its offers are designed to nourish rather than to deplete. And then the last step is that it reimagines productivity and profitability. Instead of as do more to earn more, we switch it to simplify to amplify. So focusing, for some people, it might be focusing on high leverage offers like group coaching, if that is what is in alignment for you. Not everybody needs to do that because that's not going to be good for their nervous system. But again, things like using assets like evergreen content or pre-recorded modules, things that just lighten the load are also intentional in an evergreen business. And the last one I love is tracking not just KPIs in terms of revenue, but tracking your business in terms of energy return, impact, time, and joy. As I wind down, or sorry, at the very end here, I've just walked you through the framework for a regenerative business, but also for a way of being. And you've seen how this isn't just about hormones, it's about your bandwidth, your energy, and your truth, and a business that honors all that. So again, menopause isn't a breakdown, it's a blueprint. And it's not just a shift in hormones, it's a chance to lead from a deeper alignment. Again, I'll go back to that statistic. 1 in 10 women cite menopause as the reason they leave their job. And again, how many women are leaving thinking it's burnout, but again, it may be that hormone transition. And again, I'll say it's not a personal crisis. This is a systemic failure. We are losing our wisdom keepers, our leaders, our role models, and it doesn't have to be this way. So if we enter this transition with consciousness, if we see the symptoms as signals from our body saying, hey, this just isn't working anymore, I need you to pay attention, then we begin to see why we're losing our wisdom keepers. And instead, we can shift into giving our bodies what they need, to regulating our systems, and allowing our business to evolve with us. And that doesn't just heal ourselves. We start to model a new way for our clients, for our family, for the women watching us and wondering if there's another path. And this is how we become the ripple effect of change in this world. This is how we build not just legacy, but liberation. This next chapter doesn't ask you to push harder, it's asking you to lead differently and to bring others with you. Okay, I am so sorry for going over time. All right, I am happy to answer any questions.
There is one in the chat.
Okay.
Nancy's just
Yes.
asking for some advice around the
Hey,
struggle.
Nancy.
Yes,
Yes.
when I'm overwhelmed, I can't seem to communicate respectfully with my business partner, who is also her husband, who struggles to remember what we discuss. I express my needs, boundaries, etc., to support my health as well as the business. However, he doesn't seem to remember. Any advice?
That's a good one. And that, yes, it sounds, Nancy, like again, you have that mindfulness around this, and this may be a little bit more of a communication issue. Again, it sounds like you are communicating, but again, your business partner and your life partner may be hearing things a little bit differently. So I wonder, in terms of communicating, maybe again, when you bring up some of the things that are important to you that you're discussing in terms of your needs and your boundaries, maybe as you bring those up, sometimes it really helps just to ask our partner, what did they hear? So to us, it may be very clear what we said because in our model of the world, everything we said makes complete sense, but they may be hearing something very differently. So I would first look at asking your partner or your husband to reflect back to you what they hear you saying. And then I find again, in terms of communicating and working together also means problem solving together. So I wonder again, sometimes when we bring our partners on board, okay, so you've heard this about my boundaries. What are your thoughts on ways we could change this? Or what should we do when we end up falling back into this practice? And that I find can be really helpful.
Yes, thank you. That helps a lot actually, because I think your first point, I don't think is hearing what I'm actually saying sometimes. I think he's hearing what his interpretation of it is.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. It's so nice to see you, Nancy.
I know. I got to come visit you soon.
Oh my gosh, definitely. I've been thinking of shooting you an email to ask you how your business is going.
Yes, I'm good. Well, I'll tell you all about it when I see you. It's been a crazy year.
I'm sure it
So, yeah.
has. I'm sure it has.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions? I
I
know,
have
I'm
one
sorry I went
actually.
over time.
No, we're good. I'm good to stay. If anybody wants to stay with questions, then for sure. I would say to Adrian, I know one of the things I've done with my husband, and we don't share a business, but we both have businesses, is getting him to put things in writing. Like when you're telling me stuff, that's great, but my brain isn't working the way it used to. So do me a favor and send that in an email or even a text, and then at least I can go back and search. So I'm not asking him because I'll do it. I'll be like, when he's a realtor, I'll be like, do you have showings again on Tuesday? And he's, come on. Like I've mentioned this several times. You need to put it in writing for me.
Yes,
Um,
yes. That's
so,
great.
Adrian, I would love to,
Mhm.
and by the way, if anybody else has questions, please go ahead and pop them in the chat. But I would love to know more for anybody who's here or perhaps watching the recording about your program. You mentioned it,
Mhm.
you gave us the pillars, but when is that starting? How do people reach out to you if they're interested in learning more? I
Yeah.
know everything you spoke to is Kelly and I joked with you, right? We're like, we're asking you to do this basically for us, and then we'll just
Share it with other people
but,
too.
but yeah, everything spoke so much to so many of the things that we've experienced and changes that we're making and things too. Yeah.
Yes. So I have my Empowered Life program. It is a 9-week group coaching program where we move through all of each of these 3 pillars. It is going to launch again in September because I'm being kind to my nervous system. So that said, I am actually still accepting some one-on-one. So for people who enter one-on-one with me, I am giving them access to the Empowered Life if they want the group experience, because I do think it's really important to do this in community. But for women who want to start taking action now, I'm working one-on-one with them, and then they have the option if they want to or not to join us in September, and that's included with working one-on-one. Yes. Yes. And I created this awesome, I promise, I'm just talking to my friend Anna, who's here today, about it. She can testify. It's really short. It's a mini course. It's free and it gives so many wonderful touch points and strategies. So if anybody's interested, that's at masteringmenopausemethod.com/mini course. And again, the modules are like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but it's just got some great stuff in there. And I'll try to find the link and throw it in the chat if anyone's interested. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Anna. Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions today or feedback? I'm happy for any feedback. Thank you.
I got the link in there.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate
Adrian,
it.
this was so perfect. And if people just want to reach out to you for one-on-one work, is email?
Yeah.
If you want to pop that in the chat for us,
Yes,
or
absolutely.
Garrett will make sure it goes out
Oh.
on the replay as well. But
Yeah, sure. I'll give you.
thank you all for joining us too while Adrian does that. And if anybody's interested in learning more about what we do at Avalon too, feel free to shoot an email to me. I'll put in my address. I'm Laura at
Yay, Kat.
Avalon.
Awesome. Awesome.
Our
Thank you, Nancy.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Adrian. And
Oh,
thank
my
you everybody for
pleasure.
joining us. It's been, so wonderful. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye,
Have an
everyone.
amazing day, guys. Be nice to your nervous system.